moderate wealth for everybody, and this time now of near Armageddon that's being suggested is just the decline of religion. That it's not. There are so many other factors.
Of course they are.
But don't you agree that?
Miriam was
I just wanted to come back to something that Hola and Stephen were touching on, which is that morals can be exceeded by the use of reason. And in fact, in Islam, the use of critical reason is very much encouraged. The difference is that you've got no way to then ground that within society and the individual. And that's where religion plays a role, because through ritual, it connects the individual to broader society. When you pray, you reconnect with those godly values, which are the universal values of morality. When you fast, you think about poor people. All of these rituals, charity, you think about your connectedness to others. All of these rituals are there to connect you to other people. And all the research suggests that actually, research by Putnam recently, religious institutions, religious organizations are much better at creating civic networks. The Oxford Handbook of Religion recently showed that religious Americans are much better at being civic activists, at voting, at giving to charity.
So is that a moral society? Because it's the most religious society in the Western world. Is that a particular paragon of morality, America?
See, one of these things, you can't, well, sociologists generally find it very difficult to measure religiosity of a society.
Well,
you can measure
the
religiosity.
USA is the most religious society in the Western world.
That's one sociological definition. What's much easier to measure is self-proclaimed religiosity. So how much you attend church, how often you give to charity, how often you pray, and that is very much connected with civic activism and looking after others. It's no surprise that 1 in 10 young people in Britain today feel that they have no responsibility for the elderly. Religious people feel that because they connect.
There's a lot to respond to in there, and some of it's right. I think it's true that religion... We'll get to this, but not right in a minute. I mean,
cut to the chase, Stephen.
So, religion is actually a very good social adhesive. It's quite good at binding people together into communities, and no one wants to deny that. However, it's also true, for example, that if you run philosophy for children programs in schools, those children are also transformed. They become far more moral, far more interested in interacting with each other. So you can build communities using religion, or you can build communities without using religion. The thing about the philosophical approach, let me finish. The thing about the philosophical approach is that everyone is included. You don't have the effect of different religions. As they bind people together, they produce divisions between those communities.
That's an assumption you're making. In Islam, we say very much, someone is either your equal in faith or they're your brother in humanity. We don't, those distinctions that you're
making
don't
wants to come in here. Susan?
I'm just going to say, I like what you're saying, but I don't agree with it, actually, because if you look, if we took religion out of it, then it would be one man's word over another man's word of what morality is. You could state that you think this is moral, and then I could state something else.
There's a really good example of that, what we were talking about earlier on, which is you think all Muslim women should wear the hijab, for example. Right, it's a lady there who doesn't. So is she being immoral?
No, I don't think so.
But you told me earlier on it was a sin, not...
But this is my personal belief, and that's her personal... I'm not her. I don't know how she thinks. I don't know how she feels. I don't know her life story. I don't know when she was born, where she was born. I don't even know her full name. I don't know her age.
All women should wear the hijab. That's an example of exactly what you were saying about one person's morality.
But I also believe that women who have some disability that can't wear the hijab shouldn't wear the hijab, and I think there are plenty of reasons why that should be. I mean, this is my personal belief, that I don't believe in enforcing it on anybody.
And that's the point. That's where we get back to it. Most religions are actually involved in civic networks in which they're helping to feed the poor, look after the elderly. They're buttressing where the state is actually failing us, and without them we'd be a lot poorer.
They're also massively involved in politics, in which case they also do things like try and prevent gay people from adopting, trying to stop them from having codified relationships, etc., etc. So they're not just this benign activity.
Anthony,
the question is slightly flawed in that.
Oh, sorry about that.
I agree with you.
Because does religion bring a more moral society? Well, even if it does, do we always want to have a more moral society if you're then condemning people you consider to be immoral to be out of society? In other words, one person's definition of morality is another person's immorality. In other words,
that's true whether it's religious
during the
or not.
Crusades, the Crusades for morality persecuted, killed lots of people who were deemed to be immoral. In a born-again Christian sense, homosexuality is immoral. In my view, some of the most moral people I've ever met in my life have been homosexuals.
I'm not saying I've got a problem.
Well, let's not go back to that. We've kind of been there. But there is a point. I mean, Kola, you can address this one. There's a point that we look at the history of religion, and it is drenched in blood, and it's drenched in humanity. The Middle East is all about ancient religious claims to a strip of land.
It's all about politics, it's all about gas, it's about oil. And Stalin and Mao...
It's funny.
Yes, it is. Stalin and Mao were not religious people.
So it's nothing to do with religion. John Mitchell.
It is fair to say that there is a tremendous amount of politics, but what's amazing to me is that on the one hand, religion is this powerful, amazing entity, and on the other hand, the moment anything bad happens within it, that's politics. No, you have to take some responsibility. You asked before, what's the difference between a moral structure that has God at the top of it and one that doesn't? The difference is when God is your superego, when God is that person on your shoulder backing you up with everything you say, all of a sudden your words have double, maybe more, the impact.
Well, actually, yours first cultivate humility.
Bishop David.
John, as usual, has a much greater insight into the Almighty than perhaps I do. But
I would not
certainly much
I haven't seen you play basketball.
Bigger relationship. No, I prefer rugby. But the main thing about this agenda is that human beings need to live together in harmony. They need to see creative flourishing, whoever they are, whatever their background, colour, creed, and at the same time, we need to allow for the flourishing of that extraordinary thing in human beings which seeks the other, which seeks the numinous. The description of love, for example, is extremely difficult to measure, but raises the spirit. Christians find that love in the person of Jesus, face to face, and also in the ability to sort things out when things go wrong. We've mentioned all sorts of negative things today. That is one of the basic experiences of human beings, and therefore the ability to be forgiven and to know you're forgiven, to know that you can forgive in order to pick up and move on, is at the heart of many people's religious practice.
What about those people who are, you know, unarguably wonderful people, altruistic people, but do it not because there is a creator or they believe there is a creator, but do it just because they think it's the right thing to do?
I say praise the Lord, and
but they don't. They don't say praise the Lord.
Therefore, an understanding, a Christian understanding of God, is as we say, is big enough to encompass the whole
those people
cosmos.
too. Stephen, you want to find a word?
Yeah, I think that each one of us ultimately has the responsibility for making our own moral decisions, and we need the inner resources to fall back on to make those kind of decisions.
And religion can help us.
And I have no problem with religion whatsoever in terms of providing guidance, but you need to reflect on it and ultimately make your own decision. You should not treat your religion as a moral compass that you must always follow blindly and unthinkingly.
Moral compass, I haven't heard that word for a couple of years. Thank you all very much indeed. Thank you. Next week we're in Bury. Thank you so much for watching. For now, it's goodbye from everybody here at